All right, let's talk about profiling using behavioral data. Of course, behavioral data might be the most powerful and the least understood data available. It is so powerful because it provides potentially strong insights into motivations and behaviors. In addition, it is perhaps the least understood data available because traditional marketers do not have individual level behavioral data, so they don't really know how to interpret it and use it, and don't actually even have it available. So very little is written about individual level purchase data and how to use it to gain more insight and profile your customers. Now for us, we just recently discussed RFM, recency, frequency, and monetary value, as a segmentation strategy. And this is a simple form of profiling using behavioral data. In this case, it tells us how recently you have purchased or performed a specific behavior, how frequently you perform that behavior, and the monetary value to the organization of you performing that particular behavior. So RFM is a very simple version of behavioral data. And if you think about casinos, for instance, and how they use their databases, many of them are focused on the concept of some version of an RFM approach to profiling their customers. How recently have you been there? How frequently do you visit the casino? And how much are you worth to the casino from a monetary perspective? Behavioral data includes purchase data, obviously, and what we always think about is individual level purchase data as behavioral data, but there are other types of behavioral data. Other types of behavioral data include search data, for instance, online searching data, your response to offers, perhaps some post-purchase behavior, whether or not you filled out a satisfaction survey, whether or not you returned items, or perhaps in terms of things like automobiles, how much you use them and how you service those products. Repurchase data, of course, is another thing that we might be interested in to get some sense of not only retention, but repurchase behaviors in terms of when, where, and how. Use of social media data, right? And so are you posting information on social media? It's obviously beneficial for us to know some of that, and that perhaps it will provide us with some insight that might not be available with other types of data. And then think about what else might be considered behavioral data. Of course, let's look at the Vons Club example again. And of course, think about Vons Club and think about what they know about you given the information they have on your purchase behavior. So Vons knows how much money you have spent at Vons. They know every single item that you have purchased at Vons. And as a result, they can typically be able to estimate whether or not you are on a specific diet, for instance, a low carb diet or a South Beach diet or whatever kind of diet you might be on. They can typically identify whether or not you have children in the household and how old each of those children are based on your purchase behaviors. What else? Well, they know when you shop. They know how much you spend every time you shop. They know how frequently you shop. And all of that data provides insight into their understanding of you as a customer so that they can do a better job of making sure that you are a satisfied customer and at the same time provide them with information to perhaps stimulate your spending with Vons. Basic information used for purchase behavior profiling. What is purchased? How often is it purchased? When is it purchased? Where is it purchased? How long is each visit? How long has someone been a customer? And perhaps other things that you might think are important. A good example of this is how long is each visit? Well, of course, we could be talking about a physical visit to a store, or we could be talking about a online visit to a website and how many pages were viewed, how long did you spend on each item, all those sorts of pieces of data that are readily available to database marketers at an individual level. Let's just look at this then really quickly from a Stations Casino example. A Stations Casino database, in theory, can tell Stations Casino which games you play, the specific game, the denomination of that game. Can also identify whether or not you've consumed meals there, whether or not you've used any of their entertainment options, whether or not you have picked up any of their giveaways, whether or not you've attended any gaming events like slot tournaments or bingo tournaments, etc., or even gone to a Super Bowl party there. It also can tell us how often do you visit and gamble? When do you visit and gamble? Where do you visit and gamble? How long is each visit? And how long have you been a customer? And they can also identify whether your gambling activities are increasing, decreasing, or staying the same. And there are lots of other things that they can do. But this is all information that would help Stations Casino understand you as a customer with no demographic information and no attitudinal information and no lifestyle information, just based on your behaviors. And behavioral data paints a very detailed story of the customer, rich in predictability of future behaviors. And of course, what is the best predictor of future behavior? Well, of course, past behavior. And past behavior is historically recorded in the behavioral data. Another example of using behavioral data is affinity profiling, which is an attempt to see what kinds of purchases are correlated with cross-buying rates. What does the purchasing of one product tell us about purchase of other products? And here I have a typical affinity profiling table where it shows me product A and the likelihood that as I buy product A, I also consume product B. And you can see that these numbers go up and down by product, but there is potentially some insight to be gained in terms of which products to bundle together in offers, which products to focus on after someone has, for instance, purchased product A. It seems logical that you would want to pitch them product B, because 10.5% of the people who bought product A also bought product B in this particular case. This seems like easy and is good information, but it's probably a little bit more difficult to collect and analyze than it first appears. First off, many firms don't have the right information, and you have to make decisions about whether to use number of purchases, total dollars, or something else. You might have thousands of products, or like a grocery store, potentially hundreds of thousands of SKUs. Then what? Do you lump that information into categories? Do you try to use some common sense? Or perhaps CHADE or some other stat procedures that many of us researchers use to try to identify associations between, in this case, purchase behaviors. In summary, individual behavioral data is powerfully revealing and potentially insightful. It's easy to get, and it's inexpensive to get, because it is collected by you as the purchases are actually made at an individual level. Of course, then it means that it is proprietary. That is, no one else has that information but you, which results, of course, in a potential competitive advantage. So do not underestimate the power of individual level purchase and other behavioral data.